On a hillside in Brazil in 1966, two men were found dead. They were wearing suits, they were lying on their backs side by side, perfectly still. And on each man's face, a crude, handmade mask made of solid lead. No lenses, no openings, no way to see through it. Next to them was a note with 4 instructions. The note made no sense, the masks made no sense, and 60 years later, after multiple investigations and multiple theories, the official cause of death for both men is still listed as unknown. I want to be precise about that, not inconclusive, not pending further review, unknown after 60 years. Stay with me, because the deeper this case goes, the stranger it gets.
Miguel José Viana was 34 years old. Manuel Pereira de Cruz was 32. They worked together as electronic technicians in the town of Campos dos Goytacazes, roughly 300 kilometers north of Rio de Janeiro. By every account from the people who knew them, they were normal men. Miguel had a wife and 2 children. Manuel had a family. They had a business together. Nobody who knew them reported anything unusual. On August 17, 1966, both men told their families the same story. They were traveling to Sao Paulo to purchase electronic equipment. That was the last conversation either family had with them. That was also a lie. Instead of going to Sao Paulo, Miguel and Manuel traveled in the opposite direction, to Niterói, a coastal city across Guanabara Bay from Rio de Janeiro. It was not a city either man had documented connections to. There was no business reason to go there. Investigators never established why they chose it.
On the afternoon of August 18th, both men entered a small shop in Niterói and purchased 2 yellow waterproof coats. The vendor remembered them clearly. They were calm, polite, and purposeful, and they kept checking their watches more than once, as if they were running to a schedule. That same afternoon, they bought a bottle of mineral water. Then the record goes silent. No hotel receipt, no additional witnesses, no documentation of where they went or what they did for the next 36 hours. They moved through a city of hundreds of thousands of people and left no trace. Until August 20th.
On August 20th, a 17-year-old boy was flying a kite near the summit of Morro do Vintém, a steep hill on the western outskirts of Niterói. He saw something in the dry grass and went closer. 2 men, suits and ties, lying on their backs in the open sun, perfectly still, arms at their sides. He thought they were sleeping. Then he got close enough to see their faces. On each man's face, a mask. Not a gas mask, not safety equipment. Handmade, shaped from flat sheet lead, the same material used to line X-ray rooms and protect against radiation. Cut and formed to cover the eye area entirely. No lenses, no openings. They had been made by hand with deliberate care for this specific purpose, whatever that purpose was. When investigators arrived, they found beside the bodies the 2 yellow waterproof coats, neatly folded, an empty mineral water bottle, and on the ground nearby, a torn page from a notebook. The handwriting was clear. What it said was not. Be at the agreed place at 16:30. At 18:30, swallow the capsules. After the effect, Protect metals. Wait for the mask signal. No capsules anywhere at the scene. No metals. No indication of what the signal meant or who was supposed to send it. 4 sentences. 0 explanation. Here is where the investigation collapsed. By the time the bodies were found, 3 days had passed. 3 days in August heat in southeastern Brazil. The decomposition was severe. When forensic teams ran toxicology, the results came back unusable, too degraded. Official cause of death could not be determined. Investigators worked backwards. The note was authenticated as Manuel's handwriting. Both men had arrived at that hill deliberately. They had followed a written schedule. They had worn the masks voluntarily. Police dug into their backgrounds. No criminal record, no known political affiliations, no documented involvement with any group. The money they had withdrawn before leaving was never recovered. Dead end after dead end. Until one thread. In certain parts of Brazil during the 1960s, there existed informal groups whose members shared a specific belief that contact with beings from other dimensions was approaching, and that when it happened, the human body would be exposed to radiation it was not built to survive. These groups believed that lead could protect the body during the encounter, applied directly to the most vulnerable area, the eyes, the face. In this framework, the masks made a certain kind of sense. They were not about seeing, they were about surviving what was coming. No specific group was ever tied to Miguel and Manuel. No member ever came forward. But someone had made those masks with knowledge and intention, and both men had put them on willingly on top of a hill and waited for something that never arrived. Theory 1. The capsules killed them. A self-administered substance, possibly experimental, could have caused death with no visible symptoms. The decomposition made toxicology impossible. This theory is consistent with the evidence and also completely unverifiable. Theory 2. The scene was staged. Both men were already dead when they reached the hill, transported and positioned by someone else. Against this, no evidence of transport, no footprints, no witnesses. The staging theory accounts for how composed the scene looks, but composure is not evidence. Theory 3. Something went wrong with something they believed was safe. They followed the schedule, they arrived, they put on the masks, they took the capsules. And the signal never came, because they were already gone before it could. Or, and no investigator has ever fully closed the door on this, the signal came, was sent, and the only 2 people who knew what it meant were lying dead in dry grass with lead over their eyes. The lead masks were tested. Standard lead. Nothing unusual. The note was forensically authenticated. No fingerprints other than their own. The hill was searched multiple times over the following years. No additional materials, no buried equipment, no signs of anyone else. The case was officially closed, reopened, closed again. The file for Miguel Jose Viana and Manuel Pereira de Cruz sits in the police archive in Niterói. It lists cause of death as undetermined. It has listed that for 60 years. The agreed place was never identified. The capsules were never found. The signal was never explained. And 2 ordinary men went to a hillside on a summer afternoon in 1966 and did not come back Next case. In 1970, a woman's burned body was found in a remote valley in Norway. She had no identification. What investigators eventually found were 8 separate identities, every one of them fake. They spent 50 years trying to learn who she was. What they discovered was more disturbing than the body.